Serious, what's the worst butterfly effect that you've set off, whether on purpose or on accident? Me spotting a weird light outside my window led to me becoming homeless a couple years later. Saw a weird light outside our house one night, more than told mom, more than it turned out to be my dad calling his mistress, more than divorce, more than mom gets sole custody, more than some time passes, more than my mom is ready to move on and reconnects with an old boyfriend, more than they decide to go on a trip together, more than he and my mom end up in a car accident, more than she dies, more than I'm just about to turn 18 so I can't go into foster care and my extended family takes her it and ditches me, more than homeless. It's really weird to think of it this way. I do wonder what would have happened to me, or to her, if something and they had gone differently. Edit. So my comment was removed hidden. I'm sorry for the trouble. I'll remove the links. NP. Thank you all so much, truly, for the outpouring of kindness. I wish I could do more for you all, but I'm doing what I can to move forward. At least, I wish you all the best in life. Really. Thank you. Addition. A picture of my mom on a date in the 80s, I think. I dug around for the other photos I remember having, but I can't find them, so this one will do. I know you're all strangers, and you didn't know her, but if you want to do something for me, keep her in your thoughts for a moment. There wasn't a funeral, and no one seemed to care at the small memorial my sister held, so I'd always wanted to share a little of her with someone. She deserved better than what happened to her. In 1971 I was in the pub with a bunch of friends talking about the following year's Olympic Games to be held in Munich. Someone suggested we should go to the Oktoberfest beer festival and eventually 4 of us booked the holiday, drank our own weight in beer and came home with a lot of stories. A young guy who had just started coming into the pub listened to all the stories and a couple of years later went to Munich to see it for himself. Fell in love with German culture, cuisine and the ambience of the place. 20 years later, after the failure of his marriage, he went to live in Germany. Hooked up with a Fräulein and I used to visit him every year until he was killed in a car crash in 1998. And I still sometimes wonder about the effect of that first trip to Munich. I sent my wife's lover's chat log and hotel receipts to his mother. Thanks Facebook. They live 2,000 miles from us, and after doing some digging into him, when I found out, I realized that his mother was supporting him and his wife and 3 children. He's 44 years old. His mom kicked him out, but let his wife and kids stay. His wife divorced him. I divorced my wife. Now he's living in his car. I'm not even upset about it. F my wife. F your life. Asked 2 of my college friends if they were dating. The guy kills himself. Full stop. Are you guys dating or what? We should be. Shouldn't we? They start dating. Not really working out after a few months. Guy's PTSD and bipolar flares. If you leave me, I'll kill myself. They break up amicably after he gets some therapy. Mental health flare. Decides it's time. Wraps his car around a tree at night so parents can cash in his life insurance. Full stop. Edit. Bonus consequences. She's depressed from the suicide and gets self-destructive. Looks for rebound 6. Finds cool but unemployed biker dude. Loses a job and not using protection. Gets pregnant. Decides to keep the kid and stay with the guy while both unemployed. Full stop. Turns out I ruined the lives of 2 friends via butterfly effect by asking for clarification. I know I can't blame myself here, but that doesn't stop me from regretting the decisions I made along the way. Told my older sister and her friend that I can predict the future, as a joke. They thought it would be fun to know their future. I predicted for my sister's friend that she will lose a lot of weight, she was obese, and that she will ditch her boyfriend because she will think she can do better now and then marry a British guy. She's Lebanese and never been to Britain. Told my sister that she will immigrate to Canada, meet a guy whose family used to live in our hometown, and then they will get married. Fast forward few years. My sister's friend did a gastric bypass surgery and lost a lot of weight. Dumped her boyfriend and met a British guy teaching in the same school she's in, then got married. My sister applied to Canada and got the immigration. Met a guy whose family lived in the same hometown as we used to, and then they got married. To this day I wonder if I did predict the future or if it was just an effect of what I said to them. Edit. Not a bad butterfly effect, but I thought it's worth sharing. One night I decided to get drunk instead of studying in college. Went out with a few friends who I convinced to go out with us. One friend meets a girl that he ends up falling in love with. So he moves out of my buddy's apartment, leaving a spot open the next year that they need to have subleased. Ends up being a girl who wants to get in this apartment. I see her a lot since she lives with my buddies. I start dating her. It leads to the worst, most destructive, manipulative 2 years of my life, where she leaves me 2 months before the wedding for another man and took all my money. Had to move back home and start my life over living with my parents. All because I wanted to get drinks one night. Pressured a guy in his 50s to do an assault course race so I could get a $10 discount. If we had 5 people it is cheaper. He eventually gave in. Made it to the 5th mile. Slipped and tore his cruciate ligament. He couldn't work, so stayed at home with his wife. He started arguing with her a lot. So much they decided to separate and get divorced. He moved out. His adult children hated him and he rented a house from a mutual friend. A few months later our mutual friend calls me to let me know that 50s guy had poorly screenshotted mutual friends' photos from Facebook and used them as his own on Tinder. All well and good, except he was a 5'2", 50-year-old Latino guy. Mutual friend was 6 foot 30-year-old white guy. Usually my mutual friend wouldn't be that bothered. Except he found out from his wife as one of her friends saw his photo on Tinder, but with Latino guy's name instead. They were also about to get married, so both were really angry. Mutual friend tried to ring Latino guy. Latino guy hung up when he realized he was busted. Long story short, my mutual friend evicted him. Yeah, my bad. Texted my battered crazy ex that we should hook up sometime cause I was home alone and drunk stoned. Well, she responded a few minutes later saying sure, and she took the train up to my place. We hooked up all night. Multiple times, and not gonna lie, it was a ton of fun. That was a Friday night. On Monday she texted me she was pregnant and sent me a pic of an ultrasound and 3 positive pregnancy tests. Well, I called her out on her it. That was a blatant lie and there was no way she was pregnant that soon, and it would not show up on a test that quick, and I wore protection and was too drunk to finish each time. Well, this was her ploy to get back with me, and it backfired hard on her and sent her into this downward spiral, and she ended up in a mental ward for a few days. I'm a big fan of this theory, as I believe a lot of major incidents can be traced back to one defining choice or action. A bad one that jumps out to the front of my brain. I was studying in college, pre-university in the UK, when a classmate suggested I joined a sort of social networking website dedicated to meeting people who will be going to the same university as you. I joined and became friends with a really lovely girl. We got talking and everything about her ticked all the right boxes, or at least to 19-year-old me. Fast forward a few months. We are both at uni and dating. We have our ups and downs, but they were very extreme ups and downs. I hated my course I was on, product design, and applied to another university to study architecture, something I always wanted to do, but I stupidly got cold feet as it meant I would have to move away, and I didn't want to leave her, so I rejected their offer. We broke up shortly after and had a very messy and public breakup, along with having to see her get with her friend that I sort of knew had a thing for her, along with rumors going round that I hit her, which I didn't. So I'm 99.99% if I never had that conversation with my classmate, I wouldn't have joined that website. I wouldn't have met my ex. I would have gone to a different university and my life would be very different right now. That's mad. Had a flight booked to Bangkok, Thailand, from Canada. En route to the airport decided I wanted to leave big cities for some sun and beaches. Booked a flight to Phuket before departure, and upon arrival took a ferry to Koh Phi Phi. Met this beautiful girl the next morning and had a deep conversation. Never thought I'd see her again as she was leaving. Ran into her before she left the island to find out she was staying for another night by herself. Fell in love and we're still together 3 years later. Never expected that. I don't know if this adds to the effect, but I might add she is also a fellow Canadian from my province, and I had partied in her university town several times before in a lot of the same establishments, without knowing each other. Thank you for all the upvotes and kind words. This is really a best butterfly effect, but I had a baby girl a couple of years ago and decided to get a vasectomy a year later because my wife and I were in our 40s and we knew we didn't have the energy or finances for another. Cue the urologist finding a lump in my left testicle and deep in my abdomen. testicular cancer that had spread to points in my abdomen. 6 months of chemo later, I'm right as rain. But I would never have found out about it until it was in a much more potentially lethal and painful stage. So I owe my daughter my life, in a way, which I'm sure she will use to her advantage once she hits the teenage years. Agreed. I have a foursome with my then boyfriend and 2 people he didn't know but I knew. Didn't go well. He ended up leaving me for them. Thruples are wild. I moved across the country for a job I probably would have turned down if I weren't single. He ended up breaking up their 4-year relationship. Because of one weird drunken night I started a different career. He ended what could have been a marriage. One of the guys is now engaged to someone else and the 4th person deleted all social media and got fat. Had an abusive girlfriend when I was 18. Naive me didn't realize that was a thing. Especially from a woman. Not physical, emotionally, and then exploited that to basically steal from me. I made a lot for an 18-year-old at the time. Got engaged to said girlfriend. One of my co-workers kinda saw what was going on and found out she was banging one of his friends. He told me. I got upset, punched a plywood wall, broke my hand, told her to duck off and cut off anything that tied me to her. I moved to a different city. Being there completely changed my outlook on life. For the better. Went to school. Have a pretty damn good paying job and I don't take it from anyone anymore. If my co-worker didn't decide to be a bro, things would be probably much worse for me. Don't be that D that doesn't tell someone that they're being cheated on. Seriously. That's a D move if you keep that to yourself. This kid used to bully me in school so I complained to my mom who took it up with the principal. Apparently this wasn't the first complaint and he had been kicked out of his previous school for the same reason. However, it turns out that he's my dad's boss kid and the dad for some weird ass reason decides to take revenge by stopping my dad's promotion multiple times. Dad takes up another job but he has to move to another city while we stay back because stability. Dad has an extramarital affair there. Mom finds out. It's an absolute show in my house for the next 3 years. My parents hate each other's guts but refuse to divorce because codependency and societal pressure. I spent those 3 years breaking up their fights and trying to talk reason into their thick skulls while also managing the household and my studies. Anyway, I've got depression and anxiety now. All because I couldn't suck up and take some bullying as a kid, LMAO. So you know the protest in Hong Kong and now the coronavirus. And here is the story. A man thought his girlfriend cheated on him, so killed his when they traveled to Taiwan. Hong Kong and Taiwan have no mutual legal assistance between them, which mean they can't bring that man who are back in Hong Kong to court in Taiwan, which led to HK government want to make a edit on the legislation and might open a loophole for China to arrest and charge anyone in Hong Kong. Then the protest happened, and because of the protest, the tourism activity drops a huge amount, and therefore the coronavirus isn't widely spread in HK cause no mainland Chinese came here. What a butterfly effect. Edit. TL. A man killed her girlfriend which lead to protest and prevented widespread infections of coronavirus. Edit 2. Wording. Edit 3. No more emoji now. And everyone is living in a harmonious world. Edit 4. It turn out I spell Hong Kong wrong. Thank you iOS autocorrect and thanks that's amazing everyone for upvoting. Edit 5. Mantry are so many mistakes. THX autocorrect. Caused my mom's boyfriend to be arrested by eating cookie dough and then blaming him for it. Which caused my mother to get pissed off and make him go out to go get more, but recently one of the taillights died and so he got pulled over to get a fix-it ticket which California loves to give out, but when they ran his ID they found a warrant out for his arrest because when he worked at a hospital he stole a few of the computers and thus he was arrested and I never say him again. I called 911 to get a homeless guy medical help but they ended up arresting him instead and threatened to arrest me for making a false police report. I still feel bad they arrested him. I was just trying to help the guy out. I didn't get arrested but my boss was pissed at me. I gave my cousin chickenpox. His dad, my uncle, never had it as a kid. It's bad to catch as an adult, so my aunt had to take care of him the whole time, followed by the other kids in the house. This was pre-internet so she missed critical assignments and a final for a grad school class. She had to go back the next semester to retake the class, then met a charming young man in class who she started an affair with and was caught, resulting in a messy divorce. My uncle fell into deep depression and was fired for drinking on the job. Got a friend, former co-worker, a job at the office where I worked. Basically she got to from a part-time retail job to a full-time office job. Friend later turned on me, spread lies about me behind my back, tarnished my reputation and later got me fired less than 4 months before my wedding. Most of the people I worked with were invited to the wedding and or other events related to the wedding, and very few, except my closer friends, came because of the awkwardness. I guess you could also file this under no good deed goes unpunished. I moved across the country to live with my best friend, Reed, basically my brother, so he and I could hold each other accountable and support each other in quitting drugs. It worked, but after a few weeks we had a falling out over a mess in the house, and I moved back west. He never answered another one of my calls, and about a year later I got a phone call from someone who explained to me that he died. After I moved back west, he relapsed and graduated from pills to heroin, and the rest is history. I'm grateful that the last thing we said to each other before I walked out the front door for the last time was telling each other I love you bro. RIP my dude. Not worst, probably best actually, but my house burning down in 2001 in high school paved the road for the rest of my life. My house burned down in 2001, more than. Because of this I started taking a different bus to school because I was living with a friend, more than. Because of this I met my first real GF and real relationship in high school, more than. She convinced me to go to college where she was going, more than. I had no idea what I wanted to study, but the degree I got wasn't leading to any job prospects in the area, so I moved 20 hours south. GF and I had been split up for a few years by this point, more than. That's where I've been since with my now current wife, a house, and kid on the way, and I couldn't be happier. If the house didn't burn down, and I hadn't met the OG GF, I probably wouldn't have gone to college and probably would be living in the same town I grew up in, working at the local mill or whatnot. NSFW. Stomped into my mom cheating on my dad with some guy, developed cuckold fetish and ended up in that kind of marriage. Took a job as a guitar teacher in high school. Owner said she wanted me to commit for 2 years. Didn't go to uni cause I wanted to honor that commitment. Spent my first year out of high school bouncing between temp jobs. End of the year, decide to go abroad and work at a summer camp in the US. Love it so much I want to go back again. Set up my life so that every year I can go back and work at camp. Start going to other countries for my off season. 9 years in. Come to Sweden to ski. Get depressed and lonely because I'm broke and it's taking ages to find a job. Messaging friends a bunch. Turns out one of them is into me. Get a job. Get a girl. Get happy. Edit. Totally didn't read the worst part of the question but I still wanted to share. Played a shotgun effect on Tonda. I've been super depressed for a long time. 3 years ago my dad died and I was feeling suicidal. I'd made an attempt the night before to no avail and felt worse. Slumping around the house. Decided to start just swiping on Tinder and out of like 2 matches, I met a girl. 3 years later, I'm happily married and working towards a degree, which is something I never thought I'd do. Give it a day guys. You never know what'll happen. Edit. I didn't change anything because I like it, and I forgot the point of the thing was to be negative. I told my friend that there were some serious suspicions that his girlfriend was cheating on him, which turned out to be true. Turns out Buddy's ex took it out on her former college roommate and destroyed their friendship because she thought the roommate was the one who ratted her out. The friend wound up not really talking to much of her friend group from college at all as a result, and the first person who reached out to her pitched an MLM she accepted. So now she's all in on an MLM because I told my friend about his girlfriend cheating. When I was younger I absolutely hated school. Zero interest in it. I ended up switching schools in 6th grade and knew no one there. I broke my leg really bad, had to be on crutches for 6.5 months during winter. I gained a ton of weight and I started to get bullied in school. I had no friends. So my mom got me into reading. I found out I love books and I was actually pretty good at school when I tried. I'm still chunky but I'm in medical school now, which for sure wouldn't have happened otherwise. Left the house 2 minutes late for work. Spent 28 days in county jail. I killed a girl and her dog. I had just finished fostering a high anxiety dog, which was exhausting but rewarding. Told my friend who coordinated fostering, half joking and on a whim, I would only do it again for a chow chow because, frankly, I've always wanted one so a taste would be nice. Bam. That's exactly who needed a transport from a gassing shelter that day. It felt like fate. It was. He takes forever to place but I teach him to be a little more affectionate by having him kiss on command and convince this nice young woman to adopt him. She loves him and they have a great life together. Her sending me pics sometimes. A few years later they were taking a walk, they're both struck and killed by a car that went up on the sidewalk. If she adopted a different dog, she would have probably been going faster or slower. This sounds stupid, but has me pretty ducked right now. About 3 years ago my dad gave me power of attorney to be able to take care of stuff for him while he is down at his house in Nicaragua. The first thing I said to him was, "Oh cool. So this means I get to pull the plug?" As a joke, I am now facing that decision. So many sad stories here. I'll share a good one. I stopped into a local comic book store to buy paint for miniatures. Spotted a guy I kind of knew from work playing board games. He invites me over to join them. That group of friends became the root of my entire social life for the last decade. Not just the same people from that day. Many have moved away. New people have joined. Friends of friends with peripheral interests. Family of friends who have become my friends. And all just branching out from that. And all came from sitting down to play a board game with some strangers one day. Downloaded Tinder, more than had to hide from a meth dealer while trying to give a girl who was a meth addict plan B because the condom I was using while having sex with her broke. LMAO. Used to skip school and play gambling machines. Would go there every morning. Got kicked out 1 week later. Gunmen come into the place where I would have been and shoot 2 school kids dead. I would have been there if I hadn't been kicked out. Leave work one day and head to Little Caesars to get some crazy bread and then I head home. When I get there I see a random dog walking around, going through the garbage at the road and just wandering around. I could see he had tags so I tried getting close to him but he came at me. Was kind of an intimidating dog so I bolted from my porch. I called the cops to come get the dog and get it to its owner. While waiting for the cops to show up I tossed breadsticks off my porch into the yard to keep him close. Cop arrives. He wasn't at all comfortable getting close to the dog either. Real young guy. So we're standing in my yard and he tells me to keep tossing breadsticks on the ground as he tries to get close enough to see the tags. He tries but the dog isn't having it and takes a bite at his legs. Cop freaks out, kicks the dog back and pulls his gun. They kind of have a standoff for 20 seconds or so. The dog makes another move towards him and he ends up shooting the dog dead right in my driveway. Father and young boy show up like 20 minutes later looking for the dog. Both start freaking out. Kid is crying. Dad is yelling at the cop. A bit later the mother and younger daughter showed up. That sucked. I just wanted the dog to get home. Apparently the kid had left the gate open and the dog got out. Felt pretty bad about that one. I had given up on online dating apps but decided to give it one last try and swipe through some people one night. I saw this girl who I thought was kinda cute and swiped right on and the next day she messaged me back. We're going to celebrate our 2-year anniversary in May. Additionally I had just uploaded a picture of myself and my new kitten the day before and I later learned that she didn't read my profile and my cat was the entire reason she swiped right on me too lol. Backstory. When I was 18 me and my 23-year-old brother took over the family house. My mom has got remarried and as a hellish teenager me and my stepfather did not mesh. Prom night happens and my brother is scared I'll make bad decisions if I go out partying. So he turns out garage into this cool ass hangout spot. Couches, sound system, lights, and tells me to invite my friends. I had like 4, and we could drink and party in the garage. One of my girlfriends invited this dude cause he had weed. We all had bottles. I was a hot mess by the end of the night. Well, my oldest neighbors were sitting with my brother at the opening of the garage and I stood up and loudly said MR. Capital X. Your wife terrifies me. After like a minute of what was later described as ear-splitting silence he said really quietly, me too. 2 months later he told my brother that I awoken something in him. They got a divorce. He started dating a girl like half his age. The wife moved 3 states away. A few months ago we found out the new woman stole all his money and he is now homeless. For this to make sense, you should know my kitchen is shaped like a U. I brought in groceries and set them on the end of the counter. On the second trip, I accidentally knocked over a bottle of juice, which bumped a cookie sheet drying by the sink, which knocked a spatula flying across the sink, which tipped over a small potted succulent next to the sink, which rolled and hit against the fruit basket, knocking an apple off, which rolled across the stove at the bottom of the U and tapped the broom leaning against the counter. It tipped forward and smacked my toddler in the face, where he stood at the end of the other counter. Decided to save my parents money by moving in with another roommate after my first one dropped out. More than massive car wreck 2 years later. More than living at home at the age of 23, with no future in sight. Clinically depressed. Long story short, she had chronic CPAP and I didn't sleep for 3 months. Never ending downward spiral. I really want to kill myself or die. Whichever's easiest. I stopped a drunk from harassing some kids on the train. He chased me and fell on his bike. I left him passed out on the ground. He lost a leg due to the frost or summit, died later that year. Got offered a great paying job in August 2001, then got offered another job for less money a week later. My gut told me to take the lower paying job. Thankfully I took the lower paying job in Midtown Manhattan. My start date was Monday, the 10th of September 2001. If I had taken the higher paying job, I would have been in Tower 1 of the World Trade Center on Tuesday, the 11th of September 2001. I work in a laboratory and one day I switched vendors for our pipettes. When we started to use them, everyone got really upset and annoyed that they were different, despite them being nearly identical. I got made fun of for months despite them have the exact same function as the old ones and eventually had to return to the old ones. I decided to play the clarinet, which I believe led to my mum's death. I picked up clarinet in primary school and on the way back from a recital one night a fox ran out into the road. My mum slammed on super hard and the next morning she couldn't walk. Overnight she'd contracted TM, a rare inflammation of the spine. She progressively got worse and couldn't speak or move. A few months later she died. I believe the stress trauma of the heartbreak caused the inflammation. We wouldn't have been driving if not for me and my stupid clarinet. I don't even play anymore. TLDR. Wanted to accompany my boyfriend during an important practical examination. Ended up crashing in a 40 kW car. We were fine. Car was scrap metal. Saru, hear the full story. My boyfriend had a practical test of different skills, lasting 5 days. I just had to study for an upcoming exam. He was obviously stressed, so I thought why not come to the place in the other town, get a hotel room together and give him some company when he gets done with it for the day. A bunch of really stupid coincidences resulted in him having to drive home and there he just picked me up, saving me the money for the train. So on the way to realize I hit up some people living in the other town I haven't seen in almost a year. Went to the student dorm with my BF. Talked to my friends a bit and then we decide to get back to the hotel at like 11 PM. At this point my BF has driven 3 different cars in 2 days. As I said, things were messy. Overestimates the road grip of the current car. That happened to be a Nissan Roadster custom painted by him and his father. Lost control in the last duckline curve before the hotel and we crash with one side fully in the sidewalk. All that cause I wanted to be there for him and have a chat with some old friends. My husband's uncle's cheating lead to a beautiful marriage between my best friends. Uncle was cheating and his now ex-wife caught him, which lead to a nasty divorce. But she stayed close with my husband. Years later, she is remarried and lives in the same town that my husband and I moved to after our nuptials. We get together for dinner to celebrate our wedding with her and her new husband. I complain about my crappy job. He has an opening on his team at an amazing company. Hires me. I meet my work BFF. My husband is working at his alma mater and meets what turns out to be my new real life BFF. We have a Christmas party where they're both invited, but she's dating someone else at the time. A year later, my husband and I are planning a vacation with my now single BFF and I ask work BFF if he wants to come. He says yes. We go to Canada and they get married 6 months later. All of these responses, like started dating more than happily married, are not examples of the butterfly effect. They're just cause and effect. Butterfly effects have unforeseeable knock-on consequences. Meeting someone when you go out socializing isn't remarkable in the slightest. When I was about 5 years old, someone said I say really strange things when I talk, and it was all I could think about when I went to say something. Started to talk less because I was scared of what people would think of me, and if I did speak it would be extremely quiet. Would let people talk over me. Only speak when I was told to. Never shouting out or interrupting. Lost basic communication skills. Became friends with really boring people. Was extremely meek. Lost all but one really boring and controlled by her mother friend, who I then stopped talking to, leading to me having no friends, not even one. An almost impossible time making friends. Spend my lunch time in the library on my own. Being bored from not having any friends lead me to spending my time eating food which made me overweight. From being overweight and hating my body lead me into starving myself. Started eating again and became overweight again. Still have no friends. If that one person hadn't said that, I'm sure I would be a lot more confident and have a best friend. I know this isn't as bad as some of the others I've seen in the comments, but this is still my worst butterfly effect. So my entire online friend group was made because one day I played Roblox and talked to a particular someone. We talked, got to know each other during like 2 years. Then he and I go on a game for fun and meet another someone, ex-friend now. That someone and I meet my current friend, who then introduces me to a Discord server, her own, where I met most of the other people in my friend group. The crazy part is though, it's not just the friend group that might change if I never met that guy in the first place. It might have changed my entire life. I've been suicidal for as long as I can remember. So if I never met him, I could have killed myself, since I wouldn't have had them to live for. I could have been much more social in school, maybe even turning into the popular sporty athlete, and not having any online friends at all. And it's also not me who would change either. That guy could have had his entire life changed. If my ex-friend didn't meet my current friend, he could have went down a different road. etc. Starting off on the wrong foot with several co-workers. Doesn't do anything extensive. It just never gets better, so it's always awkward. I was gardening in my yard and heard someone call my name. I stand up and look around but don't see anyone. I squat and get back to gardening. I hear my name again. What the hell? The inside of my yard can't be seen from the street and vice versa. So I walk out to the street, thinking maybe one of my friends has dropped by. Instead I see a guy already walking past with a big pack on his back. I'm in a poor area with train tracks, but we never got many hobos or traveling kids. I didn't know what to say, just stood there and watched him turn the corner and walk out of sight. I have regretted it since, because I feel he was someone I should have gotten to know. A few years later, I'm cleaning a different house. Look up, and there's a traveling kid walking down the street toward me. I am not going to regret this one. I go outside and walk up to him, and there's this awkward silence because I suck at social stuff. I look down and see he's barefoot. I mean, those feet are so well used. They look like hobbit feet. Want to ride somewhere? I asked, having a car for once in my life. He was quite disgusted, and I'm surprised he didn't spit in my face. Leap over dodgeball. Get mild concussion. Miss a day of school. Get behind in my schoolwork. Start failing. Get kicked out of honors classes. Lose friends. Get depressed. Still fail anyway. Time passes. Get anxiety. Still graduate.